right, guys, good morning. It's Saturday morning. It's another rainy, miserable, cloudy day. Forecast to have more rain today yet. It's about 50 out, so it's not too bad. On the project number 2 here with the Farmall 560. If you go back through my videos, pretty early on, I think it was one of my early videos here on YouTube. I think it was 560 or Farmall 560 update 1. And in that video, I think I mentioned that when I first got this tractor home and took the loader off, I put 2 gas tank fulls of gas through my pressure washer until I got it clean, just because all the dirt and grime on the engine. And in that video I explained it was the top valve cover gasket that was leaking, and I had changed that in that video. This side valve cover gasket, I wasn't sure if it was leaking for sure or not. One thing I did notice, the bolts were loose, these little screw heads. So I could turn them pretty far. So all I did back then was just tighten it up. No good, it's still leaking. I don't know how well you can see, but it is oily, and after a new paint job I don't want to get it any worse than it is. So I got a gasket, and we're going to change the gasket on this valve lifter cover. It's not a major job to do. Again, it's kind of just a simple straightforward repair here today. Going to take the tack cable off and get it out of the way, and then I can take all these bolts out. So there aren't really any special tools or anything like that required. Basically, you get yourself a screwdriver, a couple scrapers. It does help to have one of these style of screwdrivers here, just to get the bolts out behind the generator. We got a gasket here, and this is what I like to use on all cork gaskets. This Indian head gasket shellac compound. This is what we used at the dealership. This was anything that was cork. This is your best bet as far as a gasket sealer. You never put silicone on a cork gasket. It's never going to work. So we'll get into this, and basically right now it's just a matter of taking the bolts out and taking this lifter cover off. So most of you guys know what lifters are. If you don't, there's basically there's a rod that goes from the camshaft up to your valve train, and they're push rods, and it pushes your valves to move your valves. So we'll get this cover off, and I'm still not sure why they put that cover on, because there's not much you can service once you take it off. Why they needed a door here, I don't know, but we'll get it off and get this thing sealed up. All right, so we got this off, started cleaning it up. I want to get it pretty well clean. Let's come back over here to the tractor. I did take the breather pipe off. There's a breather pipe on the side of there, and it's only when you dismantle something that you realize all the places you didn't clean or paint. So we'll have to do some touch-up work on this. Like I say, it wasn't the fanciest paint job, and I wasn't aiming for the fanciest paint job, but you can see we've got it off here. So it's a little tough cleaning around like your oil filter housing and stuff. I don't want to take it off. I'm not going to bother with that. You can work around it. So it's off here. And remember, I said that silicone and cork are not a good combination. This gasket actually doesn't look that old. And what it is, it looks like there's a blue silicone on it. What happens with silicone, and I know this from firsthand experience, one of the mistakes I made back when I was very young, silicone makes the cork very slippery, and when you pinch 2 pieces of metal together with cork with silicone on it, it basically makes the cork slippery, and it slips out of where it's supposed to be. You'll squish it together, and the silicone will make that cork push out. I did an oil pan gasket on I think it was an International 234. I'm not 100%. It was one of those with the gas Mazda engine. The oil pan was cork. I put silicone on it, put it on, and what it actually did was the oil pan had those grooves on like this cover has, and it actually cut the whole cork gasket basically in half, because it basically just squished it out because it makes it too slippery. So your best bet for cork is like a shellac type of a sealant. So that's where that Indian head comes into play. It's sticky. I can coat one side of this gasket and basically stick it on, and it'll stay there until I put my cover on. So lesson learned, made a mistake early on, how to do it twice. So yeah, this is a blue silicone sealant that they did put on this quart gasket. So we'll get this other one on and get it together. So like I said, that other pipe is your breather. I had to take it off to get it out of here. So no big deal. We will finish cleaning this, get it as clean as possible, and get the gasket on. All right, guys, I guess I'm gonna have to hire a cameraman or something to be able to do a step-by-step here. I got the new gasket on. I didn't really do any filming from the last time to this, just because I wanted to keep moving. That Indian head does dry, that shellac, and it's good if it's not dry when you get it on. So I did get, what I actually did, I coated the one side of the gasket, put it on the lifter cover, and coated the other side, and then slipped it in here and started putting the bolts in. There are a lot of little tiny screws all the way around till you get them all working behind stuff. It's not the easiest, but it can be done. Try to get a close-up. You can kind of see that the shellac has pushed out, so it's good and tight. What happens with these is these little screws tend to back out. And it's not just the 560, it's a lot of these engines. My 544 was the same way. These would get loose depending on how warm or cold the engine was from expansion and contraction. And it's kind of, I don't recommend putting Loctite on these, because I have seen, we've had tractors already, that these here are bit fast from the Loctite. And then when you go to take it apart, you snap these off because they are so small. They're just tiny little screws in there. And the Loctite binds it fast, and before you know it, you're drilling holes in your engine block to try to get the little screws out. So the way I try to combat this problem with these loosening up is I try to get a little extra of the shellac in the holes, so that way when you stick the bolts in, your threads kind of get some shellac on them to help hold them in place. It's just, it is what it is. It's a common problem. I've seen it on a lot of different tractors, a lot of different models. So definitely gonna need some touch up with the rattle can. And like I say, I wasn't aiming for a professional paint job to begin with, so it's on. So hopefully it doesn't leak. We'll have to try it. I'm not gonna say it's perfect or it won't leak. I have enough experience to say that anything's possible with the equipment. So I just have to put the breather pipe back on. Now I don't have a gasket for that, and they didn't use a gasket when whoever did it before me the last time. That's fine to put silicone on. So I'm just gonna put a little bead of silicone around there. There is like a felt, I don't know, it's a, you can see it's a steel, like a Brillo pad type of deal. So we're gonna coat this up, put that on, put the tack back on, and this project should be finished. All right, so we got it all back together here. I will give it a little while, wait, let the sealant cure before I start it, let everything dry a little bit and stick itself fast. Then we'll start it and see if anything's leaking here. So like I say, pretty straightforward project from start to finish, probably about an hour. It takes longer anytime you have surfaces to clean or old gaskets to clean. So we'll let this sit a little while and then give it a try a little later.